What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Young Guns podcast. Josh Morrissey is top three in points in the NHL out of all the defensemen, and that is honestly shocking news to us. Currently, at the age of 27 years old, 38 games played, 43 points. Seven goals and 36 assists. He's right behind Eric Carlson, who's first in points for all defensemen this year with 39 games, 53 points, so 13 goals and 40 assists. And right behind Morrissey, you have Dahlin, Fox, Makar, Hamilton, Hughes, Yossi. Wow. Who would have thought that Morrissey would have been ahead of those guys? Who would have thought that Dahlin, Carlson, and Morrissey would be the top three defensemen in points this year? These were things that we could have never predicted at the start of the season. And right now, Morrissey is literally a serious contender for the Norris trophy. Do you agree with that, Luca?
Yeah, I do. He's been lights out this season. I think the Jets have played really well as a team, but just Josh Morrissey, it's actually been very surprising to see him perform at this level. It's a career high for him. His highest point total before this season was 37, which was last year. So this is not a guy who's known for his offensive instincts, but this season, for some reason, he's on another level, and a lot of it has to do with I think Winnipeg's power play percentage as well. He's been solid on the power play. He has, I believe, 16 power play points, which is absolutely ridiculous as well. And he's been good. He's been very, very good, and he's played well defensively too. This isn't just a guy that's doing well offensively. Um, he's a plus 12. He's on the ice for a lot more goals forward than he is on the ice for goals against. And I think this is good. And I think a lot of that has to do with Rick Bowness. We've seen what he was capable of doing in Dallas with John Klingberg and Miro Heiskanen in terms of the offensive defensemen and the capabilities that they have. And I think with Winnipeg this year, he's kind of turned everything around and he's made Josh Morrissey a much better player than I think people give him credit for. And I think Morrissey this season is showing the league that he does have a lot more to give, and he is a better player than a lot of people are giving him credit for. And the other thing is I've always thought that Josh Morrissey was an underrated defenseman. I've always liked him. I've always thought that there was more to his game, and it's pretty cool to see him do that this season. I think he's shown everybody his capabilities, so that's always good to see.
Yeah, and, like you look at, the Winnipeg Jets defense, and for years, people have been saying that Connor Hellebuck's been left off for dry because the defense is not good enough. They brought in guys like Dylan DeMello, Brendan Dillon, Nate Schmidt, and it didn't really change anything last year. But this year, all of a sudden, it changes everything. And like you were saying, it's Rick Bowness who is the factor in this equation, essentially, that is making it work, that makes literally the stars align, that helps not only Josh Morrissey be on top of his game and playing probably the best hockey in his career at the moment, but also it's making the defense look pretty solid. And they had guys like Dustin Bufflin in the past and Jacob Truba. And, we could say that they had one of the best defensive structures in the league a couple years ago. And when they lost those guys, we're like, wow, man, like how can they ever be that good defensively? And this is the best defensive core they've had in years since those guys were on the team. And they brought in Neil Pionk, and he had a good start with the Winnipeg Jets when he joined them, and then he kind of slowed down. Josh Morrissey wasn't playing on par to what he was expected to. He was drafted in the first round, 13 overall in 2013. But this year, he's killing it. I think he could possibly get 60 to 65 points, maybe 70 points this year if he continues on this pace. And looking at last year's stats, 37 points in 79 games. The year before that, 21 points in 56 games, 31 points in 65 games. This is his best season ever
Yeah,
since joining the league in 2015, 2016 with the Jets. So he's having a career year essentially. So
yeah.
what better year to win the Norris than this year? He's a guy that plays 20, that averages 20 to 25 minutes per game. He's on the first power play unit with Dubois, Shifley, Connor, and Ehlers. Like, what more can you really ask for this guy?
And I
Like,
think I think not only that, but I think what's interesting too, and if you go and look at just around the league in general, look at guys like Eric Carlson, right? As well. These are two guys that, especially with Josh Morrissey and having him in the Norris conversation. And I don't think it's crazy to have him in the Norris conversation because he's played really, really well. But it's two guys in Erik Karlsson and Josh Morrissey that have essentially, had down years last year, struggled. Obviously, we know what Erik Karlsson's capable of, but what I'm trying to go around here and basically say is that both guys have basically been given bigger roles this season. I think Morrissey has been given a more offensive role this season in Winnipeg, and he's shined in it. And a lot of that has to do as well with Winnipeg's power play. Winnipeg is, I think, one of the deadliest power plays in the NHL. If you watch their team, Kyle Connor, Pierre-Luc Dubois, Mark Scheifele, just to name a few. Nikolai Ehlers hasn't played all year, but he's a guy as well that you would add on the power play. Blake Wheeler, Cole Perfetti. So they've got a lot of offensive guys. And I think when you have a guy like Josh Morrissey who's able to quarterback that power play, and with how successful he is, a lot of his points coming on the power play, 16 of them to be precise, like I said before, it goes to show you a lot. But not only that, even at even strength, like he's playing really good hockey in general. And I think the Jets, needed that from him. And they were so used to having Neil Pionk being their main guy on defense and being their offensive guy on the power play. And it's been, Josh Morrissey a lot more this year. And it's good to see. I like Josh Morrissey. I've been a big fan of Josh Morrissey for a long time, like I said. And the other thing is too, like even his contract, if you go and look at his contract and stuff like that, like he's a guy that the Jets are not paying a whole lot of money for.
I mean, well, let me stop you there. $6.25 million. He signed the 8-year contract in
Yeah,
2020, 2021. He wasn't, let's be honest here. His first 2 seasons, he could have been playing a lot better, and now he's in a situation where he's in contention for a Norris Trophy. He's playing penalty kill units on the second unit, first line, power play minutes. First line in terms of a defensive pairing. He's been put in every single situation and he's succeeding at it. And he has another, including this season, 6 years left on his contract. So, at the age of 27 years old, can we see him entering his peak? Is this his peak essentially, right? So, I would say as of right now, he's playing on par to what the contract, was meant for in terms of signing Morrissey. This is the player that they were expecting him to be when they
well,
signed this 8-year extension for him.
I think there's a part of it of expectation, but at the same time, like you got to look at Josh Morrissey. I mean, apart from even his WHL numbers, apart from his 13-14 year with the Prince Albert Raiders where he had 73 points, he was never a point a game defenseman ever in his career. And so to see him do this season is kind of unheard of, to be honest. And it's pretty surprising. But Josh Morrissey's always been known for his defensive game. He's always been known for the two-way guy. He's good at moving the puck, but in terms of the points, he never really got it. And I think this year, seeing him get those points, I think it justifies the $6 million price tag. But I think he justified it even before that. The Jets didn't pay him to be an offensive defenseman. They paid him to be the solid two-way D that he is. Playing on a team that struggled defensively, but not necessarily his fault. And I think to some extent he did make some mistakes over the course of the last couple of years that may have costed Winnipeg a few games here and there. But in terms of that, I think he's improved drastically, and I think that, like you said, although I think he is living up to his contract now, he's actually outplaying it. But even at that, I don't think they paid him at the time at $6.25 million to be an offensive defenseman. And so I think the fact that he's showing his offensive caliber now
He's a
at
two-way
27 years
defenseman
old,
in my eyes. He's a guy
that's it.
that has offensive, capabilities, but also defensive capabilities, and
That's
that's true.
exactly it.
And that's the ideal defenseman in my eyes. You don't want
Yeah,
someone that's too offensive because then you are a defenseman. You're supposed to be defending and helping your goalie out, right? You don't want to
of course.
basically, at that point you would be a forward, right? Um, and you don't want to be too defensive because you need some contribution from your
Of course.
defense as well to get points to step up when your offense is not stepping up. So Morrissey is essentially everything that the Winnipeg Jets could be asking for. I know I was projecting 60 to 70 points for Morrissey this season. Can he essentially outplay Carlson and Dahlin and Makar and all these guys until the end of the season
I
and win the Norris?
I don't think so. I would love. It would be a great story. It would be a fantastic story. But Erik Karlsson's on another level this season. Dahlin is finally hitting his peak. And obviously, Kale McCarr is Kale McCarr. And I don't even want to count out Adam Fox. I know he's not having the best year compared to last year, but I wouldn't even count out Adam Fox in that conversation at some point because I think he'll bounce back eventually. So I'm not saying that it's not sustainable. It could definitely be sustainable. I just don't see him winning the Norris. But if he were to win it and it were to be sustainable, it would be a fantastic story for him because, like I said, it's one of those guys that you really didn't expect, and he's one of the most underrated defensemen in the league as well. So
Look, as long as he's in the top 3, anything's possible.
that's true.
Anything's possible.
That's
So
true.
I'm not gonna count him out. My favorite is still Eric Carlson, like we said at the start of the season. It's a huge surprise to see these 3 defensemen, you know, being the top defensemen. We have guys like Makar and Fox and so on and so forth.
Yeah,
Uh, we always expected Dahlin to be great, but to be outplaying those players and for Morrissey to be in the top 3 and for Carlson to be in the top 3, especially with that contract, that's amazing to see, in my opinion.
yeah,
And
I agree.
I don't know. I want to pick Jet fans. If you're rooting for him, I'm really happy that you have somebody to root for in terms of having an opportunity to win such a huge title like this. And the Winnipeg Jets are exceeding expectations and having a great season despite people saying that they're not going to make the playoffs this year. They've been one of the
Yeah,
surprising teams this year, just like the Dallas Stars as well. So
agreed.
we'd like to hear your thoughts in the comment section below, guys. Can Josh Morrissey win the Norris? Can he have I mean he's on pace, he already has a career season already, but how many points essentially will he finish with by the end of the season? And where do the Winnipeg Jets essentially finish in terms of the standings? We'd like to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Young Guns podcast.